My movie was The Hurt Locker, and it was made in 2009. The movie takes place during the Iraq War in Iraq. The mindset of The Hurt Locker was influenced by 9/11, Abu Ghraib, and President Bush and the Congress's decision to go to war in Iraq. Each event contributed to the view of the Iraq War. 9/11 gave American soldiers purpose in the war. Abu Ghraib changed how combat in the war was viewed. President Bush and Congress's decision impacted how authority was viewed and how it was responded to. Throughout the movie, the main character, whose name is Will, who is an American soldier, is searching for IEDs planted by terrorists in Iraq. His purpose is to fight terrorism by defusing bombs that can hurt his fellow American soldiers and locals. Protecting fellow Americans was a common theme after the 9/11 tragedy. After the attack, most commonly known as 9/11, the U.S. military acted with force. Their actions were described as fights against terrorism. This impacted the movie because Will's purpose or job was to fight terrorists in Iraq. He did so by disarming bombs planted by terrorists. The theme is ignoring orders. The main character, Will, ignored authority in the form of his commanding officer. He refused to communicate with his officer over the radio while dealing with a bomb in a public area. He decided to do what he wanted to do rather than what his authority figure wanted to do. President Bush also ignored authority of the UN and the American public when going to war. He served the American people, yet he ignored them, just like the main character ignored his authority figure. They both ignored authority and acted as they saw fit. Authority is not respected in the movie, just like it was not respected by President Bush and Congress as they went to war despite the protests held by the American people. In The Hurt Locker, there's a scene where, after a shootout, a U.S. platoon found an injured Iraqi man involved in the shootout. An officer decided to ignore the needs and rights of the human being by refusing to bring in a medic to treat his injuries. In Abu Ghraib, American soldiers ignored the needs and rights of the prisoners by beating and torturing them, ultimately letting them die. This created questions that rang throughout the American public. Are we really doing good in Iraq? Are we really the good side fighting the bad terrorists? Is our involvement just? Is it like World War II when we knew we were the good side fighting the bad Axis? Or is it our involvement unjust or wrong? Do we not need to be there? This scene makes the audience think about these questions and to question America's morality and cause in the Iraq War. 9/11 impacted the purpose in The Hurt Locker. Abu Ghraib impacted the way combat was portrayed in The Hurt Locker. President Bush and Congress impacted the way authority is viewed in The Hurt Locker. Bush and Congress ignored the protests. They were supposed to act on behalf of the American people and their wants, but they didn't. The President and Congress serve the people. That is their job. However, just like President Bush and Congress, they do not respect authority, and this soon is realized throughout the movie and impacts the way authority is viewed and responded to in The Hurt Locker. All three events impacted the way The Hurt Locker portrayed combat, authority, and purpose in the Iraq War, whether it was good or bad. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.